Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. What up, everybody? We're back, Spiritual Experience. You know the deal. Please go out and find us on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, wherever you guys find your, wherever you find your stuff. It's okay. I hope you guys are having a good day, trying to build a good life if you don't have one already. And, what is that, whatever that means to you. Whatever that means to you, what's going on with us? We're still plugging away, man. There's a couple of little fires we're putting out, and there's always something going on. I try to when people ask me, how things are going, I try to be as honest as I can, but without being, a crybaby, but I also, do you really want to, what kind of conversations do you really want to have with somebody? Something that's going to, in reality, you can unload, maybe an hour and a half or something or whatever of all of your woes, But instead you're they're great. Yeah, great. And, so it's almost like, why are you even asking me? Are you asking me because you want to tell me how things are going good for you? Or are you asking me because of some kind of formality? Yeah, what's going on? How are things going? How's this? How's that? I'm okay. Here's the thing. I think it's only, I shouldn't say this, but a lot of times I think it, it's the best investment of my time with people is really just digging through and going through the things that aren't working well, that are not. And it doesn't mean that I'm this kind of crybaby, but it's I can take a few minutes and maybe gain some kind of insight to help put together this puzzle that I've been trying to put together. Or I can waste a breath and just do some kind of sprinkles on top of a, moldy cupcake kind of thing. But it's also, that's a lot of, that's a lot to put forth to somebody. That honesty. Well, how are things going? Things are going pretty good, considering the way that I feel about myself, considering the way that I feel about other people, how non-compliant life is. Life is very non-compliant. It's never going to be. It's almost when you understand that, when I came to understand how non-compliant life was going to be, then, and what did I say? Eventually the lies will have to end, right? What lies am I telling myself about myself and about this life and about my existence here and about what I'm willing to do and who I'm willing to be and what kind of, whatever. Eventually, they just have to run out. Or I can just, face and accept them. Say, okay, well, this is the way this is going, and maybe this is temporary, maybe it's not. And, how do I want to spend this time? I talk a lot about my kids and about, business and about this, that, whatever, recovery. Recovery is how am I handling all of the curveballs that life, throws at you. Without, I was talking about this, obviously, with Hot Rod Eddie. And if you listen to that episode, you'll be pleasantly surprised because That's the kind of guy that I admire. He's got a real honesty about him, and most of my friends do. And the ones that don't, it doesn't even mean that I can't really be friends with them, but it really just means that I have to limit what kind of interactions I have with them and how long or how many interactions I have with them. Yeah. And there's always time for relaxation. There's always going to be time. I relax and just, but I have to put the work in. Otherwise, there is no relaxing, right? If I don't face what I'm supposed to be facing, then even when technically I'm supposed to be relaxing, I will not be relaxed because my brain during the rest time will be fixated on all of the things that I'm avoiding. And that in itself is torture. So what I found was that in order to limit that torture is I have to face these little things, one at a time. And sometimes it gets out of control. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're not the only one that the way that it was, that's illuminated. Is that the right word? Illuminated, alliterated. The way that I heard it, and whatever word that means, it's okay. If you know that you have to go and face a dragon inside of a cave. Now, you don't even know what size the dragon is. You could go in the cage or the cave and it'd be a baby dragon, or you can go in there and it will be a huge fire-breathing dragon. Or maybe it's like the gay dragon from, Shrek, right? Is that dragon even gay? I don't know. Maybe. It'd be nice. I think it was. No, I don't think it was gay. Maybe the dragon was trans. Maybe it was a trans dragon. I don't know. But that's a whole nother thing. Don't make me go down the trans rabbit hole. Yeah. So, but the thing is that one thing we do know for a fact is that baby dragons will grow into real fire-breathing, crazy, I'm going to kill you dragons. But they all start out as baby dragons. So, that being said, I can be outside the cave and, be scared to even go inside the cave because I don't know what kind of dragon is there. Now, that fear will guarantee me not facing my fear of going into the cave will guarantee that the dragon is growing while I'm standing there petrified. And I can avoid that cave, but eventually I have to go in there. Eventually I have to, because the lies all have to come to an end. So building a habit of trying to look at sweeping through the cave as often as I can handle to make sure that I'm dealing with baby dragons. And that's how I spend my time. That's how I spend my time. Now, it also means that, I haven't always been like that. So there's been plenty of times, both in my life and I'm sure in yours, where baby dragons have grown into real fire-breathing, crazy dragons. And the more that I avoid that thing, maybe those dragons, they multiply and they procreate. I don't know. Maybe it's a hermaphrodite dragon or something, whatever it is. And then that problem turns into a bigger problem and a bigger problem and a bigger problem. I remember when I first got sober as a young adult, dog, let me tell you, when I first got sober, man, I would not open my mail. I know there were bills there that I either A, didn't want to pay, or B, I didn't have the money to pay them. But they were there. And eventually, you know, that bill that's only, you know, $95 can grow into something that is $400 and then negatively affect credit because it has a baby, right? There's the full-blown dragon, $400 bill. Then the dragon has a baby because that bill gets passed to collections, right? Collections. And then now you have two problems. You have that $400 bill, and you have negative shit on your credit report. Yeah, that's how these things multiply. And eventually you have to deal with it. If you want to do anything substantial financially in your life, you have to fix all that stuff. And what happens is, for me, is that I am a slow learner, I guess. And I've had to, basically learn that lesson over and over again, right? And then eventually I just get help all the time because it's hard for me to be brave on my own. Now the bravery is not me going into, not all the time, let's say half of the time, two-thirds of the time, bravery, in order for me to be brave, I need help from other people. Because I have instinctively, I'm not saying that I'm a coward, but instinctively I'm scared enough that the problem, AKA the dragon, grows to a monster. And then I say, now I can't possibly face this thing, because it's too big for me. And then I ask for help. And then people who love me are like, dude, we could have killed this thing as a baby, as an adolescent, as a whatever. There's all these different stages before it becomes something that is out of control. And then, eventually you got to pay what you owe. And that's such a vicious cycle, to live in. And, it's very painful. And I think even more painful than that is watching other people do the same thing. And you can identify with them being scared, whether it's your friends, your family, your parents, your kids, especially your kids, right? I'm sorry if I talk a lot about kids, but fucking, here's the problem. The problem is, I talk a lot about kids because when the kids allow the dragon to grow, they're going to come get you to help slay that dragon. And your job is to make sure that the blade is sharp or whatever. I'm sorry if I'm using all these metaphors, but I'm trying to make it make sense. Your job is to be prepared to both slay your own dragons and you have to slay their dragons. And it's very demanding position to be in, that you're telling somebody, listen, we can go and kick the shit out of this dragon when it's little, and I'll show you how to do all the jujitsu moves, or whatever, or in order to get it done. before you get a sword because you're too young and you don't have any, you don't got no money to buy a sword, bro. You got to use my sword. I'm your fucking sword. I'm your blacksmith or whatever they call it, the one that would make the sword. That's not good until you can't afford to go buy your own. So, yeah. And then you're telling the kid, you know, listen, if you're honest with them, and a lot of times I try to be as honest as I can, I'm like, look, you are putting a lot of pressure on me because of your non-compliance. And because of that, it's actually making me resent you a little bit because of your non-compliance. Now, there are a lot of joyous things with kids, and it typically comes when they are compliant. Yeah, and that kind of stuff. So, sorry, I just got a text. So I'm losing my train of thought. Yeah, so you're trying to, I guess, you're trying to tell the kid, like, look, man, I'm also learning to be an adult and learning how to be a grown-up or a dragon slayer, we'll use that quote, is you got to learn to think about other people. Like, how mad would my friends be, or how many times can I go to my people and have them help me, not only go kill the dragon, but put out the forest fire that the dragon is flying, is igniting, because that's what happens. That's what happens. Like, the problem will start burning down all areas of your life. And, eventually you have to fucking do it, bro. You have to do it. And it's so tough from the outside, because you don't want people that you love to experience that pain. So you allow them sometimes. The problem with me sometimes is that I allow them too much slack, and I'm not being honest with them, and I'm allowing them to get lazy and to get out of shape, so that way they won't be able to go out there and compete, because I don't want them to suffer what it takes in order to really be great. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, well, maybe they're not like me and they don't need to suffer that much, where I need suffering. All suffering is where the freedom is for me. Suffering for me is facing my fears. That's all that suffering is getting on the road and facing those fears. And then in that suffering, bro, I am fucking flying. I'm flying. I love, the suffering gives more to me than I can ever give to the world. The suffering, Jocko talks about this, where he's like, dude, if we had to push the rock up, we have to push the rock up the hill. Every day you got to push the rock up the hill. And eventually you get to the top of the hill, and then you come down the hill, and then you get the rock is at the bottom. You got to push the rock. Now, eventually you figure out that, and every time you push the rock, you're getting stronger. You're getting smarter. You're finding different ways to get that rock up the hill. So the rock is giving you more than you are giving it. You're just bringing it up the hill. And then the cherry is that you get to a point where you're like, if I got the rock to the top of the hill and it didn't make its way down, I would carry the rock down the hill and push it again. And that's where happiness lies, and that's where greatness lies. Is that, like, you will go into those dark places to push that rock. You will face those things. And initially, you have to do a lot of it on your own until you learn that you can ask people for help, but they can't push it for you. When you ask people to push the rock for you, that's when you're getting very selfish. When you ask people to come and kill the dragon for you, then you're getting very selfish. Now, you can slay any dragon most of the time, but sometimes people have to come and then, then they help you and they do it for you. And what do you really learn? Where's the struggle? Right? Where's the struggle? Without struggle, there's no progress. So I'm saying that to say that it's very hard to not, the most loving thing you can do for somebody else, specifically your parent, no, I shouldn't say your parents, specifically your kids, right? And it's almost selfish. It's because you really love them, is to allow them to suffer and allow them to go through that experience. Now, while they're suffering, bro, it does not help the cause if they're not being fucking nice. That's what's even crazy. I'm like, dude, you are not being nice to me. You're being a fucking asshole to me because I'm telling you that you need to be sharpening your sword because there's a dragon growing in that fucking cave. And I'm trying to control you and I'm trying to, manipulate you and I'm fucking oppressing you and all this garbage. But really what I'm doing is I'm loving you. And I'm also doing it for self-preservation because you are being supremely selfish by expecting me to sit on the sideline and let the dragon burn you once you realize that the dragon grew larger than you ever thought it could imagine because you didn't want to believe me. You listened to your own lies. And then what happens? Then you're going to come and say, sorry, I should have listened to you. You were right. Meanwhile, I'm over here with all of the resentment and emotional baggage that you leave me with from your non-compliant, back-talking, snippy ass. Yeah. And then now you expect me to be a bigger, now I have to be the bigger person, right? Which doesn't even allow me to be human because I could just be like, you know what, bro? I fucking told you. And I told you 17 times, 11 different ways, and you treated me like an idiot. And now here we are. And now you're making it even worse. Now it's like, oh, you're not going to help me now. I'm like, no, motherfucker. Now I have to help you because then if I don't, you're going to be fucking lingering around. And I have my own shit that I have to contend with. So I don't know how many times I have to fucking do that for them, for the kids, or whatever, for them to understand. Because in real life, in regular real life people, bro, I will help you immensely. The number of times that I will help you immensely is very limited. Very, very limited. Because I'm not responsible for you. Whereas, you are not dependent on me. You're not one of my dependents. Where, life will, some kids, man, they'll whittle you down to like whatever. And eventually we all have to face our own dragon, which is like, you know what? You can't come get me anymore. Now you gotta, I hope you were listening. Now you have to execute. You can't come to me with these things. because then you're asking me not to love you. And I know that feels like fucking rejection. Because guess what? It is. But that's the only way that the cycle stops. The lies have to come to an end. You know? My parents did that in some ways at a very early age when I had my son. And in a lot of other ways, they were helping me. You know, like I said, I'm internally grateful. I never went to prison. I've been in jail a few times, but anytime there was real things on the table, my dad would come. I have to pay him back in a lot of cases. And that's the truth. I remember I had those 2 DWIs. It cost like $10,000 or something, he said, to keep me out of jail. Or whatever, 90 days. Yeah, because I had 2 DWIs. So we got one of them. This was back in the day when they didn't care if you drank or drove. And one of them, I got them so close to each other that each town that I got them in didn't know that I had one somewhere else. So we got one of them thrown out, and then the other one I had to plead to. And no driving for however long. I don't know, 6 months or something. I couldn't drive. I had a very conditional license. At that time, I had my son that I was seeing on the weekends. So if I didn't have him, I wouldn't be able to drive at all. At all. So, entonces, what happens? My dumbass birthday comes, and I drive out to New Jersey to get some of my people to have a hotel party. Because back in the 90s, hotel parties were everything. When it was cold out or whatever, and you didn't want to be outside, 20 people get their money together. Each person throws in $5 or whatever it was. And you put money down, and somebody who's 21 gets a hotel, and then everybody chills. You got 20 people, 25 people in one hotel room drinking, biting each other's nipples, going after it. Fucking getting busy. Drugs, the whole thing is incredible, right? So I go to get my homie in New Jersey, Jimmy. And who else was in the car? Oh, Jim Kozak was also with us. I love Jim. It's the best. Me, Jim, Jimmy. He was my homie, man. He's the fucking best, this guy. And we did a lot of funny things together. I should interview him for the show. That would be incredible. I haven't seen him in so long. I owe him a living amends. And I screwed that relationship up also. It's never the same after some lines get crossed in selfishness. Either way, so we're driving back, right, on the Garden State Parkway. Cop pulls us over. I am in the police pull me over car, which is my 1992 Acura Legend, fully tinted with the fucking system blaring and the rims and the whole shit and whatever. Did I have rims at that time? I don't remember. Anyway, this thing was tricked out crazy. The police pull me over, and I get pulled over, and the cop's like, oh, I smell some weed in the car. And mind you, the cop is like, listen, if you give me the weed, I will let you go. And I was so scared that I was like, bro, we got to give this guy the weed. We didn't even really have that much weed. I mean, we had maybe, 2 grams or something. It was nothing. And my boy, Jim Kozak, bro, this guy was a wizard. He put it underneath the back seat was like a bench. He somehow got it underneath there and in there. And I knew we had it. And I was like, Jim, you got to give this guy the fucking weed. I'm driving without a license, And Jim ends up fucking giving it to him. And which is good. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe it would have called K9, maybe whatever. We all stunk like weed. We wasn't smoking in the car. I was like, dude, we cannot smoke in the car. At that time because of whatever, I don't know. But just we wasn't. Even though our clothes allegedly smelled like weed. Allegedly. Anyway, so Jim gives him the fucking thing. And then the guy writes me a ticket for driving with a suspended license. Lets Jimmy drive the car. And Jim Kozak is like, bro, he would have never found that weed the way I had it. I was like, dude, it's okay, whatever. He let us. The point was like, what can we do to keep going so I can go to the party? I didn't even care about, I wasn't even thinking about jail. So I get this ticket. It's in like Montvale, New Jersey at the time, because we were just coming back over into the valley, where we used to have hotel parties at Econo Lodge and Super 8. Shout out to those places that I don't even know why they let us do it, but they fucking did. It was crazy. They were probably who was running in and out of those places right there, Route 59. Either way, so then I finally show up to court because I'm like, wow, driving a suspended license, whatever that is. The judge looks at me and he's like, how do you plead? I was like, I was guilty on license or suspended. He's like, my friend, because your license is suspended in New York from drinking and driving, and you think that you could come over here into New Jersey and drive, because you're driving with a suspended license due to those kinds of infractions, I can sentence you up to 90 days in Bergen County Jail. And I'm not giving you 60. That's what he said. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I withdraw my plea of guilty, enter a plea of not guilty. And then what happens? Now that little dragon grew into a fucking thing, you know? I don't want to be in Bergen County Jail. There's guys from like Patterson and Passaic in there. I don't know anybody in those things. And plus, I'm not built for jail. Maybe at that time I might have been because I was just so young and stupid. But now I lose my freedom for, listen, I get sick and I have to stay inside the house for more than a fucking day. I'm ready to blow my own brains out. Not lying. So, yeah, that's what it was. And so I went and I told my dad. I don't know when my dad got the money, but we paid for a lawyer, and it went away. So that's the story. That's the story. So what I'm saying is that when do we as adults face that? When is it enough for us? When are we going to stop telling ourselves the lie? Life is going to be painful for these kids, and we're not always going to be there. And we need to prep them by allowing them to feel that pain. And we have to let them win. And we have to let them lose, too. You got to let your kids lose. And sometimes losing is like, sometimes losing, to be honest, is a little bit enjoyable. When I see one of my kids losing, I'm like, yeah, who's the idiot now? Now you get what you deserve for not listening to me or thinking that I'm stupid. And and then it's hard not to laugh in their face, but that's it, and then eventually they'll find their own way, either way. All right, I got to get out of here. I love you guys. Hope you have a great week. Peace. Okay, everybody, we'd like to thank you for joining us on The Spiritual Experience. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, Pandora, everywhere. And please find us on Facebook, where you can become part of our family. We'll see you around.